what if that $60 tub of pre-workout powder sitting on your kitchen counter right now isn't just a waste of money, but is actually fighting against your unique genetic code?
I mean, it's a completely wild thought, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Today, we are totally dismantling the multi-billion-dollar fitness marketing machine. We're stripping away all those shiny plastic wrappers to look at the raw, unforgiving, but honestly, really liberating science of how human bodies actually develop.
Yeah, and the central theme we're seeing across our sources for this deep dive today is that knowledge only becomes power when you start, aggressively questioning the assumptions sold to you by corporations.
Exactly.
Because the sports nutrition industry fundamentally prioritizes its profit margins over your actual physiological reality.
Yeah, so if you are weary of feeling like you're failing just because some universally marketed miracle routine didn't give you the results on the poster, this deep dive is definitely for you. Okay, let's unpack this because we are going to dismantle the more is better myth today.
Oh, that's a big one.
Huge. And we'll reveal why your DNA dictates your progress far more than your supplement stack, and explain the actual biological mechanism of why, like, a weekly slice of cake is actually crucial for a healthy routine.
I know a lot of people are going to love that part. But we have to start by addressing the sheer scale of the manufactured illusion in sports nutrition.
Right, the sources don't hold back on this.
No, they don't. They explicitly call out the fraud of fitness marketing that relies on these vague buzzwords, stuff like health, energy, and diet.
Just slap them on every label.
Exactly. Companies package a brightly colored tub of powder and promise it will unlock your ultimate energy. But physiologically, making a universal promise like that to a mass audience borders on anatomically impossible.
Because every single person listening to this has a completely unique energy reserve level for training, right? I mean, we all require vastly different meal plans.
Really?
It's honestly, like buying into one-size-fits-all sports supplements is like downloading a universal fuel mapping software for every vehicle on the road, from a heavy-duty diesel truck to a lightweight sports car, and then just expecting them all to run perfectly. We have completely different metabolic engines.
What's fascinating here is the sheer audacity of that contradiction.
Yeah.
The industry sells a mass-produced, identical chemical compound to millions of people, yet your cellular response to anything you ingest is governed by something intensely personal, which is your genetics.
Your specific DNA.
Right. The sources highlight a crucial fact that just gets completely buried under the marketing hype. Genetics plays the absolute most significant role in how our bodies look, how they adapt, and how they develop.
And that genetic reality dictates the problematic areas of our bodies too, doesn't it? Like the specific places where we stubbornly store fat or struggle to build muscle.
Oh, absolutely. Those areas are written right into your DNA, meaning that even if you follow some famous fitness model's diet to the letter, your body's going to partition those nutrients totally differently.
Because of the baseline metabolic rate.
Yes, exactly. Whether your body is naturally predisposed to rapidly oxidize calories or strictly hoard them, that dictates how your engine runs before you even factor in a single bicep curl or a 3-mile run.
Wow.
If you don't understand your unique genetic baseline, you are attempting to navigate a really complex biochemical landscape completely blindfolded.
Which I guess brings us to the great vitamin mystery. Because the sources specifically call out vitamins and minerals in sports nutrition as this massive blind spot.
Oh, the multivitamin packs.
Yes. Everyone takes them because the magazines and the wrappers tell us athletes need them. But are these packs completely useless, or are we just like fundamentally misunderstanding how to use them?
Honestly, we are largely paying for expensive urine.
Wait, really? Just straight to the kidneys?
Pretty much. Unless you are utilizing blood panels to identify a specific, individualized baseline deficit, throwing a high-dose universal multivitamin into your system is just highly inefficient.
Because your body doesn't need all of it.
Right. Your body will only absorb what it currently lacks, and the rest is filtered right out by your kidneys. The sports nutrition industry really banks on the anxiety that you might be missing a micronutrient.
It's so wild. But, when we realize we can't just buy our way past our genetic limitations with a perfectly optimized supplement stack, the knee-jerk reaction for most of us is to overcompensate physically.
Oh, for sure. The grind mindset.
Yeah, like if the powder won't fix my plateau, then punishing extreme physical effort just has to be the answer.
It's the instinct to outwork your DNA, and it is a direct pipeline to the most damaging myth in all of fitness nutrition.
That extreme suffering is mandatory.
Yes, that endless hours in the gym are mandatory for transformation. The sources are definitive here, actually. The efficiency of long, exhausting training is a total fabrication.
Okay, but I genuinely struggle to reconcile this point from the sources.
How so?
Well, they give a hard cap, right?
Hmm?
Stating one regular training session should be a maximum of 45 minutes to 1 hour.
That's right.
But wait a minute. Fitness culture constantly screams, no pain, no gain. If I hit the 45-minute mark and my muscles aren't feeling yet, why shouldn't I keep lifting? Am I not, like, leaving potential gains on the table if I cut the workout short just because the clock said so?
You are actually leaving gains on the table if you continue past that point.
Wait, really? How does that work?
We need to look at the mechanism of central nervous system, or CNS, fatigue. Think of your muscle glycogen, your energy, as the gas in a car,
Okay, gas in the car.
and your CNS is the transmission. You might still have gas in the tank after 45 minutes of heavy lifting. Your muscles feel totally fine, but your transmission is overheating.
Oh, wow.
The electrical signals traveling from your brain to your muscle fibers begin to fray.
So pushing the gas pedal harder at that point just shreds the gears.
Precisely the mechanism. Furthermore, after roughly an hour of intense physical stress, your body's endocrine system shifts completely. Cortisol levels spike dramatically.
And cortisol is the stress hormone.
Yes, and it's catabolic, it breaks tissue down. Pushing yourself to perform additional exercises beyond that window transitions your body from a state of building muscle into a state of actively breaking it down just to survive the stress.
Man, that completely recontextualizes the no pain, no gain culture. We're constantly told to push through the pain, to ignore the burning sensation.
Which is terrible advice.
Right, because the sources are drawing a hard line here. Pain is not a goal. It's not a metric of a good workout. It is an immediate warning signal from your central nervous system that a biological problem requires intervention.
Yes. Ignoring that signal just to achieve some arbitrary rep count is physiological self-sabotage.
You're just hurting yourself.
Exactly. When you exercise through genuine pain, you provoke acute inflammation and you risk chronic structural injury. But beyond the physical damage, the psychological fallout is what actually destroys long-term progress.
Because it strips the pleasure entirely out of the activity?
Right.
The sources identify this dynamic as the primary reason the attrition rate in fitness is so incredibly high. People associate the gym with systemic agony, they dread the commute, their sleep suffers, and they ultimately conclude that, well, sports are not for them.
But exercise should optimize your biological functions. It should leave you feeling energized, not so weakened that walking up a flight of stairs feels like a Herculean task for 3 days.
Yeah, if you're experiencing that level of debilitating soreness, there's a fundamental disconnect between your training load and your actual physical capacity.
And this is exactly where finding a highly qualified coach becomes vital. You really cannot outsource your joint health to the first algorithmic ad that pops up on YouTube.
No, you have to vet them aggressively. The sources recommend really observing their demeanor, evaluating their own physical health, and seeing how they treat you during a consultation.
A competent coach is obsessed with biomechanics.
Yeah, they'll halt a session to ensure you have 90-degree angles on your squats or a perfectly neutral straight back during deadlifts. They're the primary barrier protecting you from the more is better trap.
Absolutely. And if we accept that our sessions are strictly capped at 45 minutes, every single one of those minutes must be engineered for maximum return.
Which requires an objective measurement of what we're actually doing. We need data.
Yes, tracking.
The sources emphasize that training and diet journals are indispensable tools, not tedious chores, because muscle hypertrophy and metabolic adaptation occur at a microscopic pace. The progress is entirely invisible to the naked eye on a daily basis.
Yeah, and human memory regarding physical output and consumption is notoriously flawed.
Oh, tell me about it.
You might assume your caloric intake is in a deficit, or that your lifting volume is increasing over time, but without a written record, you are merely guessing.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources introduce this incredible paradigm shift regarding data tracking. They call it the points system.
I love this concept.
So many people develop profound anxiety around counting calories. It feels restrictive, and it carries this heavy moral judgment for a lot of folks. But the sources suggest reframing calories entirely as objective points you acquire from eating specific foods to fuel your daily mission.
It's brilliant because it strips all the emotional baggage away from nutrition. Food is no longer categorized as inherently good or sinful. It is simply a thermodynamic charge.
Just fuel points.
Right. If you demand a certain physical output from your body, You must supply the corresponding charge.
Yeah.
If you supply a massive surplus of points and demand very little output, the biology stores the excess. It is just an unemotional math equation.
And managing this point system requires two simple ledgers. The training journal, which, by the way, doesn't need to be a novel. You fill it out a few times a week, bullet pointing your stats.
Keep it simple.
Exactly. The number of exercises, the specific muscle groups targeted, your current weight, the workout duration, and most crucially, how you felt.
That is so important.
Yeah, tracking your mood and energy is just as vital as tracking the weight on the bar.
Because that subjective data point of how you felt is your early warning system for CNS fatigue. If you note 3 consecutive sessions where you felt lethargic and irritable, you know your recovery protocol is failing before you suffer an actual injury.
Right. And then there's the diet journal, which operates on a daily rhythm. You log your points to ensure sufficient energy for that 45-minute output, and you track your water intake.
Water is huge.
Yeah, the sources mention water not just for basic hydration, but because liquids actively facilitate the cellular absorption of the nutrients you're consuming.
Water is the transport mechanism. Without adequate fluid volume, the metabolic processes that convert food into usable cellular energy slow down dramatically.
Wow.
But, the journals aren't the only way to track our success in this points system. What stands out to you when you look at non-scale victories?
Well, the sources offer some fantastic alternative progress markers that have nothing to do with the gravitational pull measured by a bathroom scale, like feeling the physical looseness of your old jeans because your body composition has shifted,
That's a great feeling.
or experiencing a massive spike in baseline daily energy.
They specifically highlight high-quality sleep as a paramount indicator of progress, too.
Oh, yeah. Falling asleep rapidly without racing anxiety and sleeping completely through the night without sudden jarring awakenings or nightmares.
Because if your training protocol is ruining your sleep architecture, your nervous system is in a state of sympathetic overdrive.
Meaning your fight or flight response is stuck in the on position.
Exactly, due to overtraining. If that's happening, your points game is fundamentally broken.
So, to truly master this points game, we have to look at the mechanics of the fuel itself. How do we maximize the biological return on the food we eat while maintaining our psychological sanity?
It's a tricky balance.
It is. The sources suggest a total departure from the standard 3 meals a day structure. They advocate instead for 4 to 6 smaller snacks daily.
This approach leverages the thermic effect of food. Every time you digest a meal, your body expends energy to break it down, which temporarily accelerates your metabolism.
So you're keeping the fire burning.
Right. By eating smaller, more frequent meals, you keep that metabolic engine running at a steady, elevated hum rather than letting it stall into deep hunger and then flooding it with a massive caloric burden.
And the composition of those meals relies heavily on understanding protein timing. The sources make a really hard distinction between fast-digesting and slow-digesting proteins. Slow-digesting proteins are mandatory before training and critically important right before sleep.
The mechanism behind slow proteins is vital for recovery. Foods like dairy contain casein, a type of protein that literally gels in your stomach acid.
Which sounds weird, but it's good, right?
It is good. This creates a slow, sustained drip of amino acids into your bloodstream over several hours.
Which is why the sources note this, is so you don't dream about breakfast. Your body isn't panicking in a fasted state and dropping into hypoglycemia while you sleep,
Exactly.
which loops right back to ensuring that high-quality, uninterrupted rest. And vegetarians can easily source these slow proteins from eggs, dairy, beans, and almonds.
Carbohydrates, on the other hand, operate on the opposite end of the spectrum. If protein provides the structural building blocks for tissue repair, carbohydrates act as the immediate rocket fuel.
So timing is the entire game with carbs.
Completely.
The sources recommend consuming them less than an hour before your workout to flood the system with usable energy and shortly after to replenish the depleted muscle glycogen. And we are talking about specific nutrient-dense sources here: berries, nuts, whole grain bread, and fruit.
We must be highly selective with our carbs because the sources are pretty uncompromising regarding the dietary enemies in this ecosystem.
Oh yeah, they hold nothing back.
They explicitly ban white sugar, flavor enhancers, and GMO sweets.
And sugary sodas. The absolute rule of the point system is that no liquid replaces water.
They also target trans fats, which are heavily concentrated in fried and frozen processed foods. Trans fats don't just lack nutritional value, they actively interfere with your biology.
How so?
They incorporate themselves into your cellular membranes, making those membranes rigid. This rigidity makes it significantly harder for your cells to absorb vital nutrients and expel metabolic waste.
So they're literally clogging up the cellular machinery.
They are toxic points that penalize your biological function.
Man, hearing this strict framework, timing your casein proteins, timing your glycogen replenishment, dodging trans fats, it all sounds like a fast track to dietary burnout, which is exactly why the sources introduce a vital pressure release valve, the cheat meal.
Oh, it is an absolute physiological and psychological necessity.
The sources state that once a week or once a month, depending on your goals, you should deliberately eat the exact junk food you intensely crave, like a massive plate of KFC wings, a rich slice of cake, or a cold cola on a summer day.
The biological mechanism of the cheat meal is deeply tied to metabolic adaptation. When you maintain a strict caloric protocol, your body eventually adapts by down-regulating its metabolic rate to conserve energy.
It thinks it's in danger.
Right. It lowers the production of thyroid hormones and leptin, which is the hormone responsible for satiety and energy expenditure.
So your body thinks it's starving and hits the brakes.
By suddenly introducing a massive influx of unusual, calorie-dense food, you provide a thermic shock to the system.
Yeah.
You spike leptin levels, tricking the body into realizing it is not starving.
Oh, wow.
This upregulates your thyroid hormones and forces your digestive system to work in overdrive, revving your metabolism back up.
So what does this all mean? The psychological victory is just as profound, isn't it? It prevents the feeling of being trapped in a dietary prison.
Yeah.
It pleases you emotionally.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the cheat meal proves that fitness isn't just an endurance test of miserable deprivation. The ultimate goal, defined by our sources, isn't merely the creation of an extraordinary body. It is the facilitation of an extraordinary life.
I love that phrase.
Me too. Because you cannot live an extraordinary life if you are perpetually terrified of the carbohydrates in a slice of birthday cake.
So true.
Ah.
To summarize our analysis of the sources today, you must ignore the universal promises of supplement marketing and respect your unique genetic baseline. You must discard the myth that suffering equals progress, keeping workouts strictly capped at 45 to 60 minutes to prevent CNS burnout.
Right. And you need to utilize training and diet journals to visualize your progress, reframing your nutrition as an unemotional point system.
Fueling that system with timed proteins and clean carbohydrates while fully embracing the metabolic shock of a strategic cheat meal.
The sources also provide some subtle but highly effective environmental cues for maintaining consistency. They advise keeping visual inspiration physically present.
Like what?
Like taping photos to your bathroom mirror to keep your specific aesthetic or performance goal at the forefront of your mind.
They also emphasize buying sportswear that you actually feel confident wearing. If the tactile experience of putting on your gym clothes makes you feel athletic and capable, you have significantly reduced the psychological friction of starting the workout.
That makes a huge difference.
Furthermore, if you train with someone, find a partner who elevates your standard. Someone who shows up, ensures you hit your 90-degree squats, and pushes you, rather than a friend who mocks your new boundaries and constantly tries to derail your nutrition.
Having an environmental anchor, whether it's the right gear or the right peer group, really sustains you when baseline motivation inevitably wanes. But as we conclude, the sources briefly brush against a concept that I really want you, the listener, to carefully consider.
Oh, where are we going with this?
The sources mention the validity of having ulterior motives for working out reasons that you keep entirely to yourself.
Oh, I see.
The public discourse around fitness is always draped in nobility, right? We claim we want longevity, holistic health, or functional movement. But what if your most powerful, unspoken, and perhaps incredibly petty reason for wanting to transform your body is actually the master key to your lifelong consistency?
The petty fuel. The desire to look absolutely phenomenal to spite a toxic ex, or wanting to fit into a specific vintage jacket just to dominate the room at high school reunion.
The superficial, entirely selfish reasons that actually get you out of bed at 5 a.m. It is wonderfully ironic. The fitness industry spends billions of dollars engineering bright wrappers and complex marketing algorithms, desperately trying to manufacture a sense of motivation they can sell you.
Yeah.
Yet they could never possibly bottle, price, and sell that deeply secret, unapologetically personal why back to you. Your most potent biological catalyst is entirely your own.
So, the next time you find yourself staring at that overwhelming wall of shiny plastic tubs promising you a universally bottled miracle, walk away. You already possess the only metabolic engine that matters, and you are the only one holding the keys. Until next time, Log your points, respect your genetics, and enjoy your cake.